Watch this.
College may not be for everyone, and for those looking for education after high school, Idaho's governor wants students to apply themselves. Literally, applications will soon be open for the LAUNCH program to help start an in-demand career. Polls in the middle of a political election cycle are really nothing new, but they might be for Boise's mayoral race. And what this one says may not be what was expected by the party that paid for it. When duty calls, you may want to call someone else to clean it up. Maybe someone who just happens to be number 2 in the business of number 2. Election cycles and polling numbers seem to go hand in hand, at least for national races. Who's outpacing whom in a local election, though, hasn't really been the standard here in Idaho. But that appears to be changing for at least one City of Trees contest. Just today, polling data was released in the race to be Boise's next mayor. And the results may not surprise you, but you might be surprised to hear who paid for it and what the poll tells us. Joe Paris tells us about it.
In a little more than 6 weeks, Idaho's capital city will elect a new mayor. 2 frontrunners right now, incumbent Mayor Lauren McLean and retired Boise Police Chief Mike Masterson. Who will win? Well, that's why we have elections, so tune in on November 7th. But before that, a real interesting development that happened just earlier. A voter poll on the contest was published by the national group Public Policy Polling. The group is recognized for legitimate polling across the country and political races. However, the Mike Masterson for Mayor campaign did pay for the poll, according to a campaign spokesman. So with that in mind, some of the data is tailored to that effort, but here are some takeaways anyways. First, the parameters. Public Policy Polling surveyed 651 likely Boise voters from September 15th to the 16th of this year. The margin of error in the survey is plus or minus 3.8%. 67% of the interviews for the survey were done through text message, 33% over the telephone. So, in the initial horse race question, as the survey phrases it, McLean polls at 40% and Mr. Masterson at 27%. When asked about favorability, respondents indicated that McLean is even, with voters at 41% seeing her as favorable and 41% as unfavorable, 17% unsure. Masterson saw 28% favorable and 23% unfavorable, with 49% unsure. A major piece of data here, 28% of those polled are currently undecided. Boise State politics expert Dr. Stephanie Witt says the polling appears to be impressive.
So it wasn't just a quick call. It sounded like a fairly extensive polling effort.
When you think, historically about some of the Boise mayoral races, and, I'd never seen a public poll. I mean, what does that say to you?
I have never seen a poll in a Boise mayor's race. Now, that doesn't mean that someone didn't commission one and use the results internally to the campaign, but I've never seen one.
The survey indicates that after going through positive and negative messaging to respondents, McLean's lead shrinks from 13 to 4 points. Again, the Masterson campaign funded the survey, so questions could be tailored to a beneficial outcome. I asked Dr. Witt about the political strategy of releasing a poll like this. A big key, showing it's a real race.
That's how I would interpret the usefulness of a poll like this, to convince donors and of course, potential voters that you're a competitive candidate, you have a shot at unseating McLean.
Dr. Witt says the survey also highlights the overarching dynamic.
Being the incumbent has the advantage of everyone knowing your name. And so you have familiarity, you have name recognition. But being the incumbent means that you're on the hook for how it's going. And people will hold the mayor responsible for things that aren't really directly the mayor's fault or the mayor's ability to control it. He doesn't have that yet, right? So he's relatively unknown, but he's also not having to really bear the responsibility.
Another piece of information that I found pretty interesting in the polling is they identified the 2 most important issues to Boise voters: crime and safety, public safety, I should say, 15%, and then housing affordability. That was the most important to 19%. And Brian, just to take note here, you and I were talking during the story.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, is 651 a good representation, a good sample size?
it's a sample size. And so just for a little bit of context, in the last mayoral election in 2019 between the former mayor, Dave Beater, current mayor, Lauren McLean, 50,000 people, a little less than 50,000 people voted in that final runoff between the two. So if you were to take, 651 or 652, whatever, divided by 50,000, it is a small percentage. And that's the thing when you talk about polling, is just how valuable is this? For the last several years, when we're following the Boise mayoral races, a lot of the times we'll look at the campaign financing and the fundraising as kind of a metric. This is the first time we've had access to something like this as long as I've been in Idaho. So it'll be interesting to look back at this in 6 weeks and say, okay, how accurate was that? It's a good point you make, though, is because, unless you call everybody on the phone who's going to vote, you don't know who's going to win till Election Day.
I see that spam come up. Delete.
That's true. So that's sometimes when they call, that's what this is. So,
all right. Thanks, Joe. If it wasn't for the writer's strike, there very well could be a soap opera in the works titled As the West Bonner County School District Turns. Well, another day in the lives of the school board trustees took an interesting turn yesterday with the postponement of a monthly board meeting last night. It was expected the 3 remaining members were going to address the elephant in the room, the Durst dynasty, if you will. Former state senator and analyst for the Idaho Freedom Foundation, Brandon Durst, was appointed district superintendent back in June, despite being uncertified and unqualified. He won a 3-2 vote. Then 2 of the 3 that voted for him, that'd be Chair Keith Rutledge and Vice Chair Susan Brown, were recalled in an election last month. And then last week, the Idaho State Board of Education declined to give Durst an emergency certification to legally be a superintendent, realizing, with the help of their lawyers, they no longer had the power to grant such emergency certificates for admin positions. This seemingly ended Durst's hope to take over the district of about 1,000 students in North Idaho. However, that 3rd trustee who voted to install Durst despite his lack of Met requirements, that'd be Troy Reinbold, he failed to show up to last night's regularly scheduled meeting. A lack of a quorum, not enough trustees to make any decisions.
And so I apologize for your time coming here, but that is why we had to cancel it.
Do we know why Troy isn't here?
No comment. He would have to speak for himself.
Well, Reinbold has yet to speak for himself, at least not with any members of the media covering this story. All of our emails to Mr. Reinbold have gone unanswered so far. But here's where this could get interesting. The monthly meeting, which is required by law, was rescheduled for next week. But what if Reinbold skips that one, or skips several in a row? By law, when the 2 other trustees were removed, the board has had or will have 90 days to fill those seats after declaring them vacant, which what they were going to do last night, but obviously they didn't. And if they can't fill those seats after 120 days, well, then the Bonner County Board of Commissioners can step in with a guiding light, as you will, and name some replacements, which brings with it another world of drama. But according to the Idaho School Board Association, this is uncharted territory with a lot of unanswered questions. Like, when does the clock start if the board can't get a quorum? How does the district conduct its regular business without, having a meeting? How do they pay their bills? How do they decide disciplinary issues? Speaking of paying bills, the teachers in West Bonner are working without a contract right now for the current school year. The board, they need to meet to approve one. The soap opera that is West Bonner continues, and that's probably why your grandmother might say, well, that's why I have to watch my stories. How does $8,000 sound? It may not be a full-ride scholarship to a 4U university of your choice, but it could help take a significant sting out of a trade school tuition. This has been a plan a year in the making. Governor Brad Little's Idaho Launch program is set to open applications for high school seniors early next month. It was a pitch by the governor and his allies as an investment into Idaho's future, although they're hoping for more immediate results. The goal of the scholarship program is to incentivize Idaho high schoolers to pick in-demand careers and not have to go through a four-year college to get there. Today at the College of Western Idaho, the governor again touted his win from the last legislative session, and Andrew Bartline was there and says his message to students: apply.
All right.
To a gathering gaggle of spectators, this classroom setting might feel unorthodox, but the same group agrees it's the needed spark to join the Idaho of today with the workforce of tomorrow.
Oh, I thought I plugged that in all the way.
Dane Congdon's part of the template.
Oh, okay, well that's probably what I missed.
Learning to weld, Dane's a first-year student at the College of Western Idaho, pursuing a highly demanded field. And he knows it.
There's a lot of shortages in a lot of different manual positions like nursing and obviously welding and diesel tech and just so on and so forth.
But it's not just unique to here.
They all know it too.
And I'm looking out specifically at the students in the back. Just a few of our 30,000 students. And I want to thank you for showing up and being here.
Hosting another announcement of an $80 million investment, fittingly, where higher education joints with the economy.
Idaho Launch is going to fuel the powering of the Idaho of tomorrow.
The Idaho Launch program is made possible by the Idaho State Legislature. They greenlit a plan put forth by Governor Brad Little.
But as society has become more complicated, the skills become incredibly more important.
Important enough for the state to give graduating high school seniors 80% off job training and tuition, capped each at $8,000.
October 3rd, we're encouraging everybody to sign up so they can get in the queue. We're going to have to build some capacity. Great institutions like this one are going to have bigger enrollment.
Because the state says they need it.
Healthcare, teaching, computer science, engineering, construction, plumbing.
That list goes on. Hundreds of fields detailed by the state's Workforce Development Council, prioritized top.
It will make it to where
to bottom.
We've got more auto technicians, we've got more welders. All of those are in demand, and we want our Idaho kids to stay here in Idaho.
Passing the torch, if you will, to get more copies of that template we see today, because the brightest have a big future ahead.
Consistent size, and this is kind of what we're aiming for.
An effort to keep that future here.
To be honest, I really wanted to stay closer to family.
To the benefit of the whole state. The joint between Idaho's needs, Idaho's future.
I always want to be here. I always want to be doing something in the shop. I always enjoy doing stuff with my own hands.
The official date Idaho Launch goes live is set for October 3rd. The requirements to apply for this are to be a 2024 high school graduate or a GED recipient. You have to be an Idaho resident as well. Be enrolled or have applied to an Idaho institution. I think there's 8 that qualify here. And fill out a form called a career pathway plan. That link should be on the bottom of your screen here now. So more workers in specific fields. That's the name of the game, Brian. The governor said at the beginning of the session, we're going to do this by incentivizing with scholarships. He's done it. It's right around the corner, a couple weeks away.
And it's not just the quote-unquote blue-collar jobs, like the welding stuff. Nursing mentioned that much needed.
Healthcare's the top one.
Exactly.
If you look at it specifically itemized, like the third from the top, like several thousand, is kind of like a broad healthcare definition. But then if you look at some of the more itemized ones specifically, if you add everything in the healthcare industry, it's the top by far.
And it could be a good way to just kind of check something out. Maybe you're not sure this is what you want to do. Dip a toe, see if you like it. Go for it. All right. Thanks, Andrew. Our Americans are expected to spend more than $143 billion on their pets this year. $143 billion. Most of that, about $62 billion, will be spent on feeding them, according to the American Pet Products Association, but nearly $12 billion will be spent on other services. Other services, like, I don't know, picking or paying someone to pick up your yard. That is a thing, by the way. Not only is it a thing, it's a popular thing. Popular enough that people that do this thing for a living travel thousands of miles and convene over it. Keeping up with Stephanie Kellogg
slide in front of you for just a second.
Isn't exactly easy. That's because she's got to do. That's actually Stephanie's job.
Cleaning up dog poop.
It's a business
Turd Nerd.
Stephanie and her husband started 15 years ago.
Well, we just kind of stepped right into it one day. Sorry, slow it down.
Had to do it. And she's been piling on the poop puns since. But she's also been logging the steps.
Just training your eyes and going in a good pattern.
And sharpening her specialty, speed.
I charge by the minute, so they like that I'm fast.
Clients like it, but it kind of puts photographers in a pinch. This is what you do.
This is what I do, clean up dog poop all day long.
There's a lot of others like you.
There's thousands of them.
And they all get together at conventions.
Yes.
And they have contests there.
We do. That's what brought me there.
There was the Association of Professional Animal Waste Specialists annual conference in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I flew 2,500 miles to get to this convention.
And it's where Stephanie showed her stuff.
Come on! Come on, guys! Get in there!
In a turd herding contest. 60 seconds to pick up as many potato wedges
it's gonna be fun.
as possible.
Yep.
The winner scooped 63.
I got, I guess, 60 in 60 seconds, and that put me in second place.
So you're number 2.
Unfortunately, this time I was number 2.
But that's fitting.
Right.
What else is fitting? The situation Stephanie found herself in on the way home. So you tried to carry that onto the plane?
Correct.
And what'd they say?
Well, it was in a bag, and they were like, do you have something with a shovel in there? And I said, I do. I have a trophy. And they pulled it out and started laughing. Have you ever seen a turd herding contest?
Oh, sure, Stephanie sees the humor, but she also sees the honor, as evidenced by what she dropped on social media. Were you thinking like, okay, I'm gonna get a lot of for this?
No, I was proud.
I could tell.
To bring this home and to show it off that I actually flew 2,500 miles to get it and got it.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna have to change the slogan on all the cars, because you're now number 2 in the number 2 business.
Correct.
Okay, so what is Stephanie going to do with that trophy? Well, she told us it's going on the shelf in the office along with all the other stuff, yes, poo paraphernalia, they've collected over the years.
Well, if you were out and about early this morning, I don't have to tell you this. It was cold, especially in the eastern portions of the Treasure Valley into the Magic Valley. Temperatures in the 30s for Nampa, Mountain Home, and Twin Falls again today. 43 was the low in Boise. Not quite as frigid up in the mountains. We saw generally the mid-30s for McCall, Stanley, and Haley instead of the 20s like we saw yesterday. So that's an improvement, right? But daytime highs today are cooler than what we were experiencing yesterday. So today we kind of bottom out as far as this cool down goes. We're sitting at 65 in Boise right now, but you combine that with the northwesterly breeze at 12 miles per hour. You will feel a bit of a chill in the air today. It looks gorgeous. We've had lots of sunshine across the Boise area, but it'll definitely be an extra layer kind of evening if you're headed out and about in the next couple of hours. So we are 5 degrees cooler in Boise right now compared to this point yesterday. Look at Idaho Falls, almost 20 degrees cooler, sitting in the mid-50s in Idaho Falls, and there's been a cold rain falling in the eastern portion of the Gem State throughout the day today. This is our system that's in play right now. It is a very broad but generally weak system, but it did bring that shot of cold air our way. Most of the precipitation has stayed well out of the Treasure Valley, but I won't rule out for early tomorrow morning a couple of isolated rain showers, likely while we're all sleeping, and then the rain will likely continue in the Magic Valley later into the day tomorrow and in the mountains. After that, we kick off autumn on Saturday with a nice little warm up. Autumn arrives at 12:49 a.m. Saturday morning. So by the time we all wake up, we'll be in the fall season, but temperatures will actually rise as we enter fall. 76 degrees, my outlook for Saturday. So really gorgeous kickoff to the weekend. And it only gets warmer from there, at least briefly. Upper 70s for Sunday. We'll hit the 80s on Monday. How nice does that sound? But this time of year, what goes up must come down, and that is what happens by the middle of next week. We're back down to cooler than average temperatures with highs around 70 degrees.
We have the latest on the case against the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students. We got new details about a Boise woman who's been missing since June. And 2 people have been charged in connection with the death of a man in Jerome. Here's Morgan Romero with the 411 from around the 208.
An update in the case against Brian Koberger, the man accused of murdering 4 U of I students last November. As we reported yesterday, a Latah County judge issued a new order Tuesday, closing one of the hearings set for tomorrow over his motion to dismiss the grand jury indictment against him. Today, we've learned because of an illness, that hearing is now scheduled for October 26th. And new information this evening about a Boise woman missing since June. The Malheur County Sheriff's Office says a t-shirt belonging to Gwen Brunell was found on a barbed wire fence earlier this month. It was found about a mile from where her car was found, near Sucker Creek, close to Highway 95 back in June. Another search is planned for this weekend. If you have any information about her disappearance, you're asked to contact the Boise Police Department or the Malheur County Sheriff's Office. 2 people are charged in connection to the death of a Jerome man. According to a probable cause affidavit, Erica Brock and Kevin Kunzel were both arrested in connection to the death of William Eakin. Eakin was found dead at his home on Sunday. The 2 suspects also say they stole and later pawned tools from Eakin's home. Kunzel is charged with first-degree murder and 5 counts of grand theft. Brock is charged with accessory to murder and 5 counts of grand theft. And that's your 411 on the 208. I'm Morgan Romero.
All right, about a minute to go here. We got a couple of comments today about Governor Little's launch program that is expected to open up applications next month for high school seniors looking to do something with an in-demand career, not necessarily go to college. Like this one from Steve. He wants to know if there's any way to track how many past graduates of CWI have stayed in Idaho to work or moved to another state with higher wages. I guess there's really no data out there to show that. I can't track everyone, obviously, but as that student mentioned in Andrew's story, a lot of these guys want to do this, and women, of course, because they want to stay close to home. So that's probably an option that they just choose to stay and go to a two-year college or a trade school to do that. Hats off to Brad Little for displaying common sense on COVID and now education. We need more current-day politicians who act like yesteryear politicians, says David in Boise. You know, Boise really has been Californized, I think that's a word, when we can support a dog poop scooping business, says Joe Ford. Meanwhile, Diane wants to know what kind of wage that Stephanie makes when she does this. I didn't ask her that, don't know that, but I know her company has 6 of those neon green trucks driving around, and they do about 550 homes a week. And just because you're not picking up your own poop, does that mean you're not from California? Are you from California? I don't get it.